I'd like to call this evening's meeting to order. Again, I apologize for the brief delay, technical difficulties. First item on the agenda this evening is an approval of the minutes. These would be the meeting minutes of May 6th.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as read.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Carolyn Light, I'll second it.
I have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor by roll call vote. Diorio, yes.
Prelwitz, yes.
Light, yes.
Lindelof, yes.
Shamshinia, yes.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. For this matter, I have a recusal notice that I'll be handing in. I had involvement in the Atlantic Control Systems, Inc. project. So again, I'm going to be recusing. I would ask Ron to take the controls for this particular element, and I'm handing my recusal to Talia.
I am accepting Mr. Dirio's recusal.
Okay, everyone. Good evening. The item on the agenda is an advisory opinion to the Town Council. Request for comprehensive plan zoning map amendments to AP Lot 7. I correct myself. To AP 7, Lot 32, AP 10, Lot 87, and AP 11, Lot 35, Main Street, Atlantic Control Systems. And the attorney here is Mr. James Grundy, the applicant. I guess he's the applicant, he's not the attorney, I'm sorry again. Do we have any discussion on this?
Is Mr. Grundy joining us?
Is Sean, this is Jim Lamphia, the town planner. Is Sean Clow present?
Yes, Jim. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can, Sean. Sean, would you
Okay.
mind, please, just teeing this up for the board, specifically what their charge is today with this here? It's basically an advisory opinion to the town council on an amendment to an approval to zoning that was granted for this project. And the what's on the table for discussion here is striking out a town council condition which placed $25,000 per megawatt AC
Right.
as a decommissioning bond.
So, Jim, that's correct. This is Attorney Clough here, acting as a solicitor for the town of Hopkinton and for the planning board. So this was on motion made by town councilor Sylvia Thompson and brought to the planning board for an advisory opinion. And Jim is absolutely correct. Essentially what the planning board is considering tonight at its public hearing is an amendment relative to the conditions setting the amount of the required cash decommissioning bond. So essentially, you're looking at whether or not the planning board will advise in the affirmative or negative that the council should strike the term of $25,000 per megawatt AC from the ordinance and substitute that to read to be determined by the planning board. That is in particular the discussion that you're having this evening and that you're taking public comment on.
Okay, thank you,
Carolyn
Sean.
Light. This is Ron. This is Carolyn. Can I speak? Is it okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I believe that this matter of setting the decommissioning is in the purview of the planning board, and I am highly in favor of the board following through with the amendment to the ordinance.
Okay, understood. Any other discussion from board members?
Keith Lindelof here.
Looks like a
agree with It's just the information is, I don't think we have the full information to make the correct decision, and disagree with the town council's decision.
I'm seeing Emily is muted.
She has to,
Understood. You see Emily is muted. Can we find a way to hear Emily's comments?
Hi, I'm unmuted now. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
I'm in agreement with Carolyn. I support this amendment and the consistency with which it brings the ordinance back in line with the solar ordinance as written for most of the projects in town.
just to interject for the sake of clarity, Emily has the ability to mute and unmute herself. So if any, Ron or Carolyn, if you see that, know that Emily can do that from her end.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Talia. When I muted myself, just for background noise here, I was unable to unmute myself, so I'll just remain unmuted from now on to avoid that.
This gets rather complicated, doesn't it? Okay, I would have to agree with everybody that it is in the purview of the planning board to set these limits. I, however, don't feel that 25,000 is too far out of line. The New York State Board claims 30,000 is a better amount for decommissioning. But there again, it's up to us to have a discussion on that and go with that. But the point being now, it's whether or not we send an advisory opinion to change it from what Councilor Thompson said at 25,000, and it should be discussed on each project. Now, do we have time for a vote, or is this the time for the vote, I should say? This question is directed to Jim.
Okay, Ron, we have to have this is a public hearing on this matter. So at this point,
Understood, okay.
you should make it clear that the public has an opportunity here to comment on this. And don't forget, at the end of public comments, just prior to, after you take a vote, you'll have to close the public hearing as well, so.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Okay, public, is anyone available that would like to make a comment on this?
If you would like to make a comment, please indicate this by pressing *9. And please identify yourself.
Hi, this is Sharon Davis. I really agree with having the planning board determine the decommissioning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I really agree with the planning board having the decommissioning, and I will just say for the record that when the Atlantic Solar project was voted on by the town council, I did not participate in Barbara's reading of her motion. I really thought that motion was going to fail, so I did not comment. And I did not realize that if it passed with her specifying the $25,000 per megawatt. So, and I had no way of doing anything at that point. So I'm really glad that Sylvia brought it up and is asking the planning board for an advisory opinion, and then, you know, based on that, it'll come back to the town council and we'll do a vote. So I really, really appreciate the comments that I'm hearing from the board members. I really do think that this should be done, the setting of a decommissioning bond should be done by the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Can I have some clarification on what we're talking about here? the planning board is not going to do itself a decommissioning review. This is going to have to be done by a professional consultant.
Correct.
And so just so that we understand that matter is clear.
It's clear.
Jim, could we get clarification from you, please?
Sure, Ron. Well, basically, Carolyn is correct, okay? The decommissioning, the solar ordinance dictates that the planning board set the decommissioning amount based upon a recommendation by the town's engineer. So I can assure you that when this particular project comes before the planning board will have an opportunity to set an amount that it feels as though is reasonable. So the ordinance will be followed. But again, just for clarity purposes, we're really not even going to get into people's opinions as to whether this 25,000 is adequate or not adequate. That is not the subject tonight. The subject basically is to restore the power that the planning board has by ordinance, that the planning board will ultimately decide on the number. And what we're here to do, as you correctly pointed out, Ron, is to get an advisory opinion on striking out the language that the town council put in and substitute that it will be determined by the planning board. That's the opinion that we have to give to the town council. Now, the town council, after we rendered our opinion, they will have their public hearing on this matter, and they'll decide whether they, among themselves, whether they actually want to go forth and strike it and substitute it or not. That's yet to be determined. But at this point, it's the planning board's opinion that we're seeking.
Thank you, Jim. Understand. Any more comments?
We have one. So again, to reiterate, when I allow you to speak for the record, and I'm going to identify you by the last 4 digits of your phone number, which is 8222.
Hi, this is Joe Moreau, and I agree 100% that the planning board should be in the decision making process. I've been involved in these solar projects since June of 2018, and we have had in the past, as we do now, 5 qualified members of the planning board. We have Jim and Talia, who are both very qualified, and that is up to the planning board, in my opinion. It is not up to any member of the town council to decide to interfere in the planning process. I've seen it time and time again where, residents start to question, why do we have a planning board if the town council is going, some of the town council, if they're going to make changes to the planning board. So I agree 100% that it should be the planning board decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
We have another person wishing to be heard. This is,
Okay.
I'm going to identify them again by the last 4 digits. So 0018.
Thank you. This is Barbara Capalbo. My comment on this advisory opinion is, in this opinion that the planning board will be doing, will you be naming the engineering firm you will be using, or is it still an unknown? Thank you.
This is Jim Lanfield, the town planner. The ordinance will be followed by the planning board. So the ordinance is what it is, and we'll see what the planning board does with it when they get it. But the ordinance says that it will be prepared by the applicant's representative first, but we also have to have the town engineer to weigh in on it. But the ultimate decision is to be made by the planning board in this, so we'll follow the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Barbara, was that all, or are you set, or? Okay, I hear no response. Do we have any other citizens who would like to make a comment?
State your name for the record, please.
Hello. Ron, this is Barbara Capalbo. Thank you.
Hi.
I think that if the planning board is going to follow the ordinance and actually use the town planner and the town engineer to determine this amount of decommissioning bond, I think that will be very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Talia, do we have anyone else?
No.
Okay, then. That being said, Jim, should we just close the hearing, or should we come to a decision on how the planning board wants to proceed with this?
I would say, Ron, close the public hearing first, and then have your
Okay.
vote.
Okay, understood. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Those in favor? Carolyn?
Yes,
Excuse me, can you all
Sure,
hear me?
go ahead, Jim. Yep,
Yeah, so, a motion needs to be made, but it can't be made by the presiding officer. So the chair can't make the motion. Someone else from the planning board has to move to close
Understood.
close the public hearing.
Thank you, Sean.
understood. Thank you, Sean.
Carolyn
Do we
Light
have a
here. I
motion?
make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Keith Lindell, second motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And we can vote by roll call. Carolyn?
Yes,
Emily?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, so it looks like it's unanimous. All right, thank you. And now we move on to old business.
No, you have to take the vote.
We need
That
a
was
vote
just
on
to
this.
close it.
Mr. Chairman, you had a motion that's been approved by the planning board to close the public hearing. Now, at this
Yes.
point, if any of the planning board members wish to deliberate any further, they can, or you can simply ask that a motion be made to advise in the affirmative, which would be the approval of the new language, or someone can make a motion to disapprove. It's up to the planning board, but that's the next steps that you would need to take.
Okay, thank you. Discussion from the planning board, please.
this is Carolyn. I have no further comments.
Emily?
No further comment.
Thank you. Keith?
No further comment.
And I have no comment as well. Okay, thank you. This being my first open hearing here, I'm stumbling just a little bit. I apologize for that. We'll get up to speed one of these days.
Hey, you're doing great.
Thank you. So Sean, it's okay to move on now, or?
No, you have to take a vote.
So no, at this point, one of the planning board members would need to make a vote, either advising in the affirmative or the approving of the amendment, or disapproving of the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Keith Lindell here, I'll make an motion disapproving this amendment. That's the correct term. Denying, disapproving, not approving.
So just to be clear, the motion that was just made, as I heard it, would be to disapprove of the change.
That just, maybe I'm saying it wrong. I want to return the decision process back to the planning board. So.
Right, and I understand it's a little bit confusing. If you're in favor, or if you'd like to make a motion in favor of striking the wording of requiring the 25,000 per megawatt AC language and substituting that to be determined by the planning board, you would make a motion to approve of the amendment.
Gotcha.
This is Carolyn. Can I make the motion?
Yes, Carolyn, please.
Okay, I would like to make an motion that the planning board approve the amendment to chapters 272 and 273 of the Hopkinton zoning ordinance and an amendment to the Hopkinton comprehensive plan future land use map requested by the town council for property owned by Atlantic Control Systems Incorporated and located at 0 Main Street, identified as Assessors Plat 7, Lot 32, and Plat 11, Lot 35, as well as property owned by James R. Grundy, identified as Assessors Plat 10, Lot 87, all within the RFR 80 Rural Farming Residential Zoning District. Planning Board approves the amendment relative to the conditions setting the amount of the required cash decommissioning bond, thereby striking of 25,000 per megawatt AC and substituting to be determined by the planning board. Thank you.
Great
Thank
job.
you, Carolyn. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Keith Lindelof here, second the motion. Good job, Carolyn.
Thank you, Keith.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we'll vote by roll call again. Carolyn?
Yes.
Thank you. Emily?
Yes.
Thank you. Keith?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes as well. So the motion carries. And I believe that's the end of this, Jim?
Yes,
For now?
Ron. Yes.
All right, thank you. So
Great
we move
job.
on to old business.
Yep, great job.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Al, are you coming back on for the old business?
I'm back.
Okay, thank you. I turn the meeting over to Al Diorio.
So, next item on the agenda, under old business, is Development Plan Review Photovoltaic Solar Energy System Revit Energy LLC, AP7 lots 62, 62A and 63, 15 Frontier Road, Revit Energy LLC applicant. I think Jim might have an update for us on this particular application.
Yes, Jim Lamphia, Town Planner. It's my understanding that Tanessa Azar and Karen Browning are awaiting to make some sort of a comment. So I could make it for them, but I figured as long as they're here, I'll let them say it.
Good evening. This is Karen Browning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. Nice to be with you. I am an attorney for Revity Energy. We have been working very hard to get everything together to come back to you, including but not limited to significant conversations and work with your peer reviewer Crossman, who we have made significant progress with in the last few days. However, we do have a little bit more work to do. It is our hope to come before you soon. We had hoped to come before you tonight, but that is not possible. We need a little bit more time. So we are respectfully requesting a 1-month continuance to your next hearing date, which I believe is July 1.
Okay, so can we have a motion to continue this matter to a date certain, which is July 1st, 2020?
Planning board member may
I make
have-
a motion. Go ahead, Al.
No, I was looking for a motion. Carry on.
Oh. Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this to July 1st.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. I have a second. That was Keith. Yes. Any
Yeah.
further discussion on this topic? All in favor?
Yep.
Roll call vote. Diorio, yes.
Prowitz, yes.
Carolyn Light, yes.
Linda Lowe, yes.
Shamshinia, yes.
Okay, very good. There you have it.
Thank you.
We thank you. Look forward to seeing you in the future. Carrying on, next item on the agenda under new business. A preliminary plan, 2-lot minor subdivision, AP 20 Lot 4, 32 Kenny Hill Road, John J.B. Sylvia Jr., PhD applicant. The applicant or the applicant's representative present.
Please press *9 to indicate that you are ready to speak in regards to this agenda item. I'm going to say 6638. Please state your name for the record.
Neil Hingarani.
You?
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson, members of the board. My name is Neil Hingarani, professional land surveyor from Narragansett Engineering, here for the applicant. So the property in question is 32 Kenny Hill Road, Plat 20, Lot 4. We are with you tonight for a minor subdivision, one parcel at the preliminary stage. The zone here is RFR 80, and the proposed parcel would be used as a single-family residential lot, which is permitted use. Before I go too much further, I just want to point out and confirm or ensure that everyone is looking at the plan revision date that we supplied. It's revision 1. It's with the date of 6/2/20. We made a change to remove the subdivision from the easement area. There's an agricultural easement here. And just some background on the parcel. There's a significant topographical relief on the parcel from the southwesterly to northeasterly direction. I think there's over 100 feet of elevation change here. We've done soils testing for the new parcel, which you can see is labeled 4B, and that's in yellow. And that would be on the westerly side. There's 2 soil evaluation locations. Those follow cart path, which leads to the south to Kenny Hill, which is what we presume would be the ultimate access for the parcel. Soil evaluations yielded some excellent results. Sandy, deep 96-inch water tables. There should be no issue with the proposed septic system. There's the Bushy Brook sort of bisects the parcel here, and then there's an offshoot of the brook that's labeled that does run to the northeast. That brook is probably about 240 to 260 feet away from our soil evaluation locations. And it's, I think, around 40 feet in vertical elevation away. So there's definitely going to be some wetlands associated with the brook. They're actually probably evident on the plan in a greenish color just by the vegetation. But any potential future development that we propose here would be well outside of regulated areas. There is an existing parcel, 32, or an existing structure and garage to the southeast. That's 32 Kenny Hill Road. There's an existing septic system there and an existing well. And then to the northeast, there's an easement in favor of the Agricultural Land Preservation Commission. That's essentially a farming easement. There's no change proposed to that easement. The new parcel, as mentioned, is significantly larger than the minimum 80,000 required lot size. So the new parcel is 39.35 acres and maintains well over the minimum required 225-foot frontage. Same is true for parcel 4. That's going to be 23.81 acres, and it's going to have significant frontage both on Kenny Hill and Woody Hill. So the process here is that the present owner, Todd Kenny, is going to retain the parcel called Lot 4 on this plan, and the parcel Lot B would be purchased by Dr. Sylvia and his son, who is also Dr. Sylvia, JJ. They don't have any immediate plans for development or construction on the parcel, which is why there's none shown, though we do have, like I said, sufficient water tables to indicate that it will be a developable parcel. They're avid outdoorsmen, and I think just for the moment, they plan to use the lot in that fashion, and camping or RVs or things like that. At this point, we would respectfully, we're seeking preliminary approval for this project, and ideally some sort of administrative final recording. Certainly be happy to take any questions at this point.
Okay, we'll start with planning board members. Questions?
Okay, I'll jump right in. This is Ron here. Just to clarify, in my understanding of the way things are looking here on these plans, the object of this proposal is to restore the easement property to its original state and not bisect it like the older plans. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is a stipulation in the easement that states that it is not allowed to be subdivided.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'm satisfied. Thanks, Al.
Planning board members, any other questions?
Carolyn here, I have a question. I appreciate that it's Mr. John Sylvia that is going to be purchasing this property. My question is that from what I can tell, Sylvia Holdings LLC is a real estate company. So the way I'm thinking is that this type of a transaction supports some idea of development. Otherwise, the asset would be a negative investment for them. So, am I to understand that in the immediate future would be today for me, but the immediate future for the applicant, is that 1, 2, 3, or 5 years? So I'd like some clarification on that.
Sure. And again, I can only tell you what's been based on my discussions with them. But you know, development in the sense that this would turn into you know, a 10 parcel development with you know, a roadway running through it is not what we've discussed. The longer term for them, they've discussed eventually putting a cabin here, septic system, a well for water withdrawal, and it would essentially remain for their private use. Again, so no plans have been discussed in terms of any intensification of development aside from just a single family parcel here.
Okay, I guess I'm just confused about it becoming an asset to a real estate company and not a direct purchase of a landowner.
That I can't directly speak to. I know that obviously, you know, there's no specific purchase and sales transaction on this because the parcel hasn't been created yet. But I can't speak specifically to the LLC portion of this. I don't know the impetus behind that.
Okay, it just I just feel a little uncomfortable not having some more insight on where this whole thing is going. And I really like the idea of a cabin on 42 acres. And while we're at it, I just wanted to note that it looks like there was a typo on the memo that we received. We're subdividing 63.16 acres into 42 acres and 20 acres. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I believe that's correct. And I'd obviously state that any, should anything change with the development of this parcel, I'm sure it would require approval of the board. Again, not that there are any immediate plans for that, but I would assume that any intensification would require board approval.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else on this.
Carolyn, just to follow up on that, what I could recommend here is, as part of their final submission, maybe the applicant could submit a little bit more detailed information on this concept of what's going to happen in the future. Not because we would be asking the applicant to view into the future, but simply because we'd like to have something on record as our regulations require. What do you think about that idea?
I think we'd be happy. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, please.
Thank you for the input, and I'll leave it passage to Neil. Go ahead.
No worries. I think we'd be happy to submit a few paragraphs and get in writing what the plans are. We'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning board members, anything else?
It appears as though there's a member of the public who would like to comment.
Can we hold that thought until the planning board members? We'll get to public comment.
Keith Lindley here, no questions.
This is Emily. I have I think it might be somewhat related to the line of questioning we were just on. And excuse my inexperience on this, but I'm just confused from a procedural perspective how an individual who hasn't yet acquired the property can submit a preliminary plan to subdivide a property owned by some other person or entity. So it just seems strange to me that this can be submitted, an applicant who hasn't acquired the property yet can submit this and get it underway. And maybe that's related to some of the asks that have been made just recently about, telling us a little bit more about the plans for this property and having that property acquisition be in place prior to this request being made to subdivide.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. So formally speaking, the application has been submitted by and under the name of Todd Kenny, Jr. He is the owner of the entire parcel. After the subdivision, he would continue to be the owner of the entire parcel. And the statement with respect to the Sylvias is somewhat peering into the future as far as what their arrangement would be should the subdivision be approved. But specifically speaking, the owner of record and the application signatory was Todd Kenny Jr.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Planning board members, anything else?
Ron here, I have no more questions.
Yep, so hearing none, I only have two comments. And they would, let me pose them both to the applicant and to Jim. Minor subdivision, I see your notes 6 and 10. How did we make it through the checklist without putting those items on the plan? Minor subdivision, topo and wetlands. What happened? What are we doing here? Something different?
Yeah.
Jim, do you want me to start?
Go ahead, Neil.
Sure. I think the discussion just that we had was that it's a relatively large parcel, and the area that would be developed is relatively small and in upland, and I think more importantly that there was no immediate development proposed on it. That said, I think if that's a technical requirement, we'd be happy to add topography and wetland location to the plan if that's something that's necessary here.
Pretty sure it's a checklist item. Am I missing something?
Well, in the past, you have a good point, very good point. In the past, we have put a policy in place where sufficient test holes on a large property such as this would be sufficient in lieu of an approved septic design and in lieu of subdivision suitability. That's the context in which we approved it. Now, suppose you could take that one step further and say that you should provide on the plan checklist notes 6 and 10. But again, it is a checklist item, no question about it. And but as far as its relevance, really for this particular size parcel, it's questionable. I suppose it could come into play.
I don't think it's questionable at all. I think it's a checklist item and you need to deal with it. Let me offer some guidance. So first of all, putting notes on the plan saying that you don't have to do this is not acceptable. This sets a dangerous precedent. I don't do this in my professional approach, and I'm not going to recommend that you do it either, Neil. You and I know each other. So let me offer a little bit of guidance. These things are checklist items. Now, you've got a fairly large tract here. I'm not suggesting at all that you need to go out and delineate thousands of feet of wetland edge, because as you correctly point out, the proposed development really doesn't warrant that. However, there are resources available to you where you can depict general wetland limits on a sizable piece of property. This will allow you to satisfy the checklist item and not unduly burden your client with an expense. I already know that you're cognizant that the same thing is available to you regarding topographic data. So, in summary, get those things on the plan, satisfy the checklist so that Al Diorio doesn't have to worry about what the next guy is going to come in here with. Are we clear?
Yes, absolutely. Again, we'd be happy to do that to satisfy the checklist. There was just some naivete on our part with respect to what might be required for a development like this. But again, more than happy to add these items to the plan.
No problem. And I would be willing to accept this as a condition of the preliminary approval should my colleagues concur and have you add those elements to the final plan.
We would appreciate that. Thank you.
So again, planning board members, are we all set? Before I move on?
Yes.
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 Yep.
Good. Jim, anything to add from your end? Solicitor, anything to add from your end?
None at this time.
Do we have a liaison from the Conservation Commission with us this evening?
Yes, I'm here, Al.
Anything
I'm here.
Anything to chime in from your end?
Particular? Well, definitely because there are two streams going through there. It is a concern. We need more information. I also have a question. What is this exchange of property contingent upon the approval of this plan, Neil?
I can't speak to the contingency of that. I don't know that there's a legal way to do that. That's not within my realm of expertise here.
Well, if they have a purchase and sales agreement, it could be included in there, but you're not privy to that information, so.
My
That's
understanding
okay.
is that there's no purchase and sales specifically.
Oh, there isn't, okay. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, was there anything else you wanted to add? I'm sorry. Okay, I guess we're good. So at this point, we go to the public. So if anyone wishes to be heard on this application, please follow the instructions to raise your hand and ask away.
Person identified by the last 4 digits of 0742, please state your name for the record.
Hi, this is Audra and Matt Barnes. We're at 56 Kenny Hill Road. And I apologize if these questions have already been answered, but I just wanted some clarification. What does a minor subdivision mean? Is that the proposal is to just build one additional cabin and keep the dwelling that is on the property now in place as well?
Yes, this is Jim Lanfear, the town planner. A minor subdivision is a subdivision of one parcel into 5 or fewer parcels. So in this case, we have one parcel being split into 2 parcels. It's a minor. If it was 6 lots, it would be a major or more.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay, thank you. And then, and again, I don't know if this question has already been answered. So the proposal is to build another house on just what, 42 acres?
Neil, I'll let you weigh in on this one.
Sure thing. Yes. Yeah, it's 39.35 acres. But yes, that is correct.
So that's the that's what this meeting is about, is to put an additional house on the property that's there.
Essentially, yes. Yes. There's no immediate, today, tomorrow plans to build a house, my understanding, but that is what this application would allow. So for simplicity's sake, I would say yes, to build a house on 39.35 acres.
Oh, okay. So just one house. So keep the house that's there and then build one more house.
That is correct.
Thank you. And then, oh, I'm sorry, just one other question. Is Todd Kenny going to remain the owner of that property? Did I understand that correctly?
Technically speaking, Todd Kenny will remain the owner after subdivision, but again, my understanding is that the Sylvias will be purchasing it from him.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard on this evening?
0018, state your name for the record.
Hello, Al. This is Barbara Capalbo. I just wanted to say that I appreciate Emily Shimshenya's question and the points she made in discussion, and I think they should be investigated more fully since there is no purchase and sales agreement, and they're asking for this minor subdivision without owning the land. So I just think her points were well taken because you can subdivide for anything, not just a house. And that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, I think. Okay, we're good. Anyone else in the audience?
Mr. Sylvia would like to speak.
Yes, please.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, this is JJ Sylvia. I'm the son of John Sylvia Jr. I appreciate a lot of the comments that have been made tonight regarding the usage, and I didn't want to get into great detail because obviously we're trying to support Todd Kenny to be able to make a subdivision. So the intent, of course, is that we'd be able to purchase. I did want to speak to the use a little bit because we are vehemently concerned about conservation. And I know that there's been some comments about the LLC entity being some kind of a threat. I wanted to just make a comment that the the fact that there's a holdings company that's actually the owner is more a mechanism for the family. But our intention, my dad and I, are looking for a piece of property that we can use for recreation. We intend to have at maximum building that we'd be able to use as a camp or maybe even a retirement home or something that would be comfortable. But our dream here is to have a lot of land that we don't really do much to it other than use it for fishing, have a place where we can have some utility and be able to, have a place for my daughter and my brother and so forth to be able to go and enjoy the countryside and do the conservation that we want to do with the land. So I hope that gives a little bit of insight. I do appreciate that the folks in Hopkinton care about that, and so do we. So I knew that there could be questions that this was a creative way to try to sneak in 5-house development and turn a buck, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So I just wanted to comment on a couple of those things. Also, Todd Kenny is, in fact, the author of this. We're helping him because obviously we have interest, and it was recommended that we get some idea of how we might use the land if it was conveyed to us through a future purchase and sales. So we had a little bit of inspiration on how we want to use it so this board can get a better idea, not just subdivision, but what it might look like if it gets conveyed in the future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for the comments. Laudable goals, and we appreciate that. Anyone else in the audience this evening? No hands are being raised. Okay, planning board. I'll entertain a motion.
This is Emily, I'm sorry. I have just one more comment related to this. And the response from several folks that the applicant is actually Mr. Kenny. Our documentation and the plans state that the applicant is John J.B. Sylvia Jr., PhD. So if it is in fact a different applicant, I think the documents and associated application should be changed to reflect the actual applicant.
Actually, Emily, I can weigh in on this.
Okay.
This format of an applicant being party X and the owner being party Y, this is not uncommon. This happens every day. So okay. I'm fairly certain that we have an owner authorization form. Yes, thank you, Jim.
Yes, thank you.
This is the document. This is the document that we rely upon that gives us confidence that the owner is aware of what an applicant may be submitting in their name. So again, to summarize, I see no contradiction here. This appears to be completely in order.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Good comment, though. Good question. And we certainly want to make sure that owners are aware of what other folks might be doing or representations that other folks might be making. Good. So listen, if there's nothing else, again, I'm still prepared to accept the motion should someone be inclined.
Carolyn will make the motion.
Outstanding.
I am making a motion that the planning board comes to a positive finding regarding the subdivision, the minor subdivision of AP Lot 24, that is RFR 80 into 2 lots, proposed lot 4-1 and 4-2. I am in. Sorry, my cats are fighting. First, each subdivision shall be consistent with the requirements of the Hopkinton Comprehensive Community Plan and/or shall satisfy address the issues where there may be inconsistencies. Next, each lot in the subdivision shall conform to the standards and provisions of the Hopkinton zoning ordinance. Third, there will be no significant negative environmental impacts for the proposed development as shown on the final plan with all required conditions of approval. The subdivision as proposed will not result in the creation of individual lots with such physical constraints to develop that building on those lots according to the pertinent regulations and building standards would be impractical. All proposed land developments and all subdivision lots shall have adequate and permanent legal access to a public street. Each subdivision shall provide for safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic or surface water runoff control or suitable building sites, and for preservation of natural, historical, and cultural features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community. The design and location of streets, building lots, utilities, drainage improvements, and other improvements in each subdivision shall minimize flooding and soil erosion. As a condition of approval, we would like the final plans to include number 6 and number 7.
10, Carolyn?
What?
10.
6 and 10, thank you.
Thank you.
And we would also like the final submission to include more information and details on the future use of this proposed subdivision.
Great motion. Do I have a second?
A second?
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Diorio, yes.
Prolwitz, yes.
Linda,
Carolyn, yes.
Shamshinia, yes.
Everybody weigh in? Okay, outstanding. I think you have it. To the applicant, we thank you.
Thank you all, especially for your time and service, and good luck. Thank you again.
Ready to move on? Next item on the agenda. Preliminary plan. 2-lot minor subdivision. AP 19 Lot 3. 535 Spring Street, Robert Gordon Jr., Kenneth Gordon, and Richard Gordon applicants. The applicant and the representative present.
Please state your name for the record. Mr. Calderon, that was directed at you.
This is Jim Lampier, the town planner. Jim Calderon, are you listening in? And would you, if you are, would you please present your proposal to the board?
Is Mr. Calderon in the audience?
He is muted.
We're having some trouble hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Excellent. Good evening, Chairman Diorio, members of the Planning Board. This is Jim Calderon, professional land surveyor. I'm the owner of South County Survey Company. Presenting to you the Robert Gordon Jr. minor subdivision. This is a fairly straightforward 2-lot minor subdivision application. Parcel being subdivided is, as Chairman Diorio stated, Assessor's Plat 19, Lot 3, 535 Spring Street. The parcel contains approximately 65.6 acres and is zoned RFR 80. The applicants, Bob Gordon and his 2 brothers, Dick and Ken, would like to subdivide a lot that meets minimum zoning requirements on which Bob and his wife Andy reside. The Gordon family have owned the parcel since the mid-1800s. Bob has lived in the house on the proposed parcel since he retired from the Navy approximately 43 years ago. It's important to note that no development is proposed whatsoever. Bob and Andy would simply like to subdivide the lot that, the house that they live in off from the remainder of the land owned by the three brothers. The existing house is on the parcel is served by an existing well and septic system, and the proposed parcel has frontage on both Spring Street and on Old Beach Pond Road. The remainder of parcel 3 has frontage on Old Beach Pond Road. We are seeking preliminary approval from the board. Chairman Diorio, I do apologize. I have also not included topography on the proposed parcel because there is no proposed development. But you're right, excellent point. It is a checklist item, and it can be added to the plan prior to final plan submittal. That is all. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you. And I appreciate your preempting my comment. So we'll go to planning board members first. Questions or comments about this particular application?
Around here, I have no questions. Everything looks pretty straightforward here.
This is Carolyn. Am I clear to speak?
Yes.
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay, like the previous application we discussed, I have the same concern that there is a shorter term plan for the development of the rest of the land. So I would like to delve into that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. This is, and maybe Bob Gordon is actually on the call as well, and maybe he can speak to this, but the plan is simply to cut off the lot where he and his wife reside, and the remainder of the land remains owned by the three brothers and is going to remain exactly as it is today, vacant and undeveloped.
And so let me interrupt Al Diorio. So Carolyn, how would you feel about a similar condition of approval should the board be inclined that a slightly more elaborate statement be included with the final submission as to the potential or lack thereof of development for the remaining parcel?
I would feel comfortable if we could include that statement. You had mentioned earlier that it's actually a requirement for the board to have that information before we give any approval. So thank you, Al.
Good. Planning board members, any other questions or comments?
Keith here, no questions, comments. Thanks, Carolyn.
This is Emily. This is just a minor comment. It took me kind of a long time to understand what's being proposed spatially here in the plan. I think I understand now. I see parcel A is the proposed parcel, and I understand that what we're looking at in the plan is a sort of a zoom look on parcel A, and it's essentially removing the rest of the parcel that's to be remaining intact and untouched, which you show in the inset, but some other symbology or something might help clarify exactly what's going on in the plan. But do I have is my understanding correct?
That's correct, yes. And I'm wondering how I might easily or more easily illustrate what it is that's happening. I thought the inset would explain it, but perhaps a second sheet, a two sheet set would be sufficient.
Yeah, I think if you shaded in the inset, if you shaded AP 19 Lot 3 and Parcel A together in the same shading to represent, that's the piece as it exists today, and then show in this, larger image, you've got this dotted dash line to show the proposed Parcel A. I think that might make it a little bit clearer.
Sure, absolutely. That's something I can do.
Good comment. Any other questions, planning board members? Okay, we'll go on. Anything from your end?
I don't have anything right now.
Town solicitor, anything from your end?
None at this time.
Conservation Commission liaison, anything from your end? I'm sorry, was that a yes or a no or a car crash?
No, it's a yes, this is fine.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to be heard from this application? On this application, I'm sorry. I'm getting the nod that there are no hands being raised. So if that's the case, planning board members, I'd be prepared to entertain a motion.
Okay. It's Ron here. I'll make the motion. I make a motion that this project can move to the next stage in accordance with everything in the comprehensive plan. Each subdivision shall consist with the requirements of the Hopkinton Comprehensive Community Plan and or shall satisfactorily, address the issues where there may be inconsistencies. Each lot in the subdivision shall conform to the standards and provisions of the Hopkinton zoning ordinance. There will be no significant negative environmental impacts for the proposed development as shown on the final plan with all required conditions of approval. The subdivision as proposed will not result in the creation of individual lots with such physical constraints to development that building on those lots according to pertinent regulations and building standards would be impractical. As all proposed land developments and all subdivision lots shall have adequate and permanent legal access to a public street. Each subdivision shall provide for safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, for surface runoff control, for suitable building sites, and for preservation of natural, historical, or cultural features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community. The design and location of streets, building lots, utilities, drainage improvements, and other improvements in each subdivision shall minimize flooding and soil erosion. Thank you.
And Ron, if I could respectfully request that you add to your motion that topographic data be included on the final and that a statement of future use also be included with the final submission.
Understood. And the final plan include topographical information and a statement of the intended final use of the property.
Excellent, great motion.
And how about delegating final plan to the planner? Final plan approval.
And delegate final plan approval to the planner.
An even better motion. So I have a motion, do I have a second?
This is Carolyn, I'll second that.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor by roll call vote, Diorio, yes?
Krelowitz, yes.
Light, yes.
Eplandolo, yes.
Shamshini, yes.
Good, thank you very much. Applicant, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. So the next item on the agenda is another application in which I have a conflict for. So I am submitting a notice of recusal. I prepared the survey mapping for this project. So I'm going to ask Ron to take the reins once again, and I'm submitting a notice to Talia. Ron, I would ask that you wrap up the remainder of the meeting if that's okay with you. And I thank you all for your participation.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you all.
I just accepted Al's recusal form.
Okay, we have paperwork there. Yes. next item on the agenda is a preliminary plan for two-lot minor subdivision, AP4 Lot 139B, Diamond Hill Road and Egypt Street. Lynette E. Kenyon is the applicant. Is the applicant or a representative present?
Yes, Ron, this is Jim Lampier, the town planner. I have spoken with Mrs. Kenyon about this project, and you will note that the plans that you have seen there are put forth as carving one lot out of a larger lot, with the larger lot being a residential compound lot. Now, in looking at it, in discussions with the applicant, I just found that it was unnecessary to do a compound lot, that this should be viewed and looked at by the planning board as a mere two-lot minor subdivision. And so I would ask the board to approve it as such at this time. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them as far as the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
In attendance, if you would like to speak before the board, please press *9.
Planning board, do we have any comments from any members?
Ms. Kenyon would like to speak on this.
You hear me?
Understood.
Yes.
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 Go ahead, Ms. Kenyon.
I am the person who is trying to cut out a lot. And I have a 22+ acre piece there. I also own the adjacent 29 acres that's fronting on 216 and Egypt Street. I think that originally this was all one big piece. It was part of my farm, which is from 1800 sometime. And I believe that the former owner cut these two pieces into like two different pieces. So I'm thinking I may in the future turn it back into one lot. But for right now, I just want to cut that 1 2-acre piece out. I have a really good friend. We're both in our 60s, and she would like to buy it from me and build a retirement home. So I don't know what else to say about it, but that's what I would like to do.
Okay, thank you. Planning board, comments, questions?
Is lot 1 the one that you were prepared to sell to your friend?
It is going to be, yes, is it lot 1 on the plan? It's the 2-acre. It's a 2-acre lot that fronts on Diamond Hill Road. And Al has prepared this plan for me.
Okay.
And yes, that is the lot I would like to sell to my friend, because then we could just walk back and forth between her house and mine.
Okay. And I'm having trouble seeing where your house is.
My house is on the second piece. It's not even on the plan you're probably looking at. It's on my adjacent piece, the piece I was just talking about. It's fronting on Route 216 and on Egypt Street.
Okay.
These two pieces have a common border. That's what I was just talking about, that I may want to eliminate that border. I don't know why that was done in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that's where I have a farm with horses here, yes.
Okay. I just have a question about the estimated dwelling that we see on this map. Yes. And I'm wondering what that is.
She has not made any plans as of yet. She is thinking about it. I can't sell this till I have the final approval and everything. So
Okay.
she is still thinking about it. But it's not going to be a big house because she has a big house right now and she wants to downsize.
I hear that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
she's a single woman anyway. I mean, it's just going to be for her and, you know, basically for herself. And her very small dog.
Okay, this is Carolyn. I have questions or comments on this.
Okay.
So looking at the plans, the property in question that is going to be the subdivided 2-acre piece fronts only on Diamond Hill Road? Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, it only fronts on Diamond Hill Road, correct.
And it's suitable, it's situated south of the unsuitable area?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's
Anyone
nice.
else?
It's nice and high and dry, and I think it's all sandy underneath there. There's pine trees on it.
Okay. Planning board members, anyone else? Questions, comments?
Keith here, no questions.
This is Emily. I have a few questions. So in the plans, it shows a conceptual roadway for Lot 2, and it's kind of an odd circular shape. I was just wondering if you could describe that a little bit more.
Yes, Emily, Jim Lamphia, town planner here. In reviewing this with Al Diorio, when we were initially considering a residential compound lot, I suggested that Al show exactly how that compound lot was going to have access. So he put the little mini cul-de-sac, that's what that is, it's a little mini cul-de-sac to get frontage.
Okay.
As it turns out, we don't need this, and I'm not suggesting that the board approve this as a residential compound lot because it need not be a compound lot. It meets all the requirements as a legal lot under zoning. It has plenty of frontage, more than adequate frontage on Egypt Street, and it also has frontage, as you can see, where the cul-de-sac is on Diamond Hill Road. So it's 20 acres. It has test holes that have been done, which suggests that it's suitable. You could at least get one building lot out of this 20 acres. And as far as access goes to this lot, you could either access it by Egypt Street or Diamond Hill Road. It's consistent with zoning. Our subdivision regulations just state that access shall be through the frontage. So we have frontage on 2 roads, so access could be through either one. And again, you know, in this here, you have to differentiate between what is called frontage, and sometimes people mistake minimum frontage for front yard, and they're 2 different concepts, okay? This here almost could be looked at as a through lot with frontage on 2 streets. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with this 20-acre parcel the way it's being put forth here right now. Similar to the other 2 subdivisions that we did tonight, they're both very, very residual, large residual lots that could easily be built on with at least one resident. That's pretty much what we're looking for here, is to make sure that the lots that we create today don't have any impediments to building on them. We don't want to create non-buildable lots. So as long as you can build at least one, show that you can build at least one dwelling on a lot, you're fine. So I just recommend, recommend the board approves this as a minor, 2-lot minor subdivision, and making the findings of fact that we have here, the 7 findings of fact, and delegate final plan approval to the planner. So.
Thanks, Jim, for that
I have a question. second page where it shows lot 1, 80,101 square feet. Unless I'm missing something, it shows 195.29 feet frontage on Diamond Hill Road.
Yeah, look north on that there, Ron, and you'll pick up some more. It has, let's see if I put it in my memo here. I calculate, I can't see it that well myself. But you'll see, you have to add a little bit to that, and you come up with more than 225 feet. 195.
I'm just not seeing the additional part.
Let me, I'm not seeing it too.
I see the mini cul-de-sac, the line that runs between lot 1 and the mini cul-de-sac, and from there to the corner pole, it says drill hole exists. It's 195 feet. Are we including the mini cul-de-sac in this lot 1?
No, that's in the other lot, Ron. That's in the other lot. If you look on the large plan set that you have 195.29, and then up north there you have 15.14 feet and 14.73 feet. So that's almost what, 30 feet. So add 30 to 195 and you're over 225. So that particular lot has a little bit more than 225 feet. Do you have a copy of the large plan set, Ron?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you see the dimensions that I'm pointing out to you? Just south
Ron,
of,
they're located to the left, to the right of the D. If you're looking at the wording for Diamond Hill Road, the numbers Jim is referring to are small, but they're above that D.
Okay, got it. I'm all set, thanks. Okay, board members. Do we have any thoughts from the board members before we go to the public comment?
No comments from Carolyn.
Emily and Keith, any comments or questions?
All good. Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome.
All good, thank you. No comments.
You're welcome. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this?
There aren't any hands raised, Ron.
Okay, thank you. No hands raised. Okay, I
Excuse
will
me, Ron.
entertain. Go ahead.
This is Carolyn.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking for clarification. Okay, so we've learned that there's no requirement for a compound lot. So what we would be considering is 2 conventional lots.
that's
Jim,
correct.
is that? Thank
Yes,
you.
Carolyn, yes.
Okay. Moving right along, I would entertain a motion on this.
Okay, Carolyn will make the motion. I am making a motion that the planning board approve preliminary plans to subdivide the 22.8 acre parcel AP4 lot 139B that is zoned RFR80 into 2 lots. Included in the motion, each subdivision shall be consistent with the requirement of the Hopkinton Comprehensive Community Plan and/or shall address the issues where there may be inconsistencies. Each lot in the subdivision shall conform to the standards and provisions of the Hopkinton zoning ordinance. There will be no significant negative environmental impact for the proposed development as shown on the final plan, with all required conditions of approval. The subdivision as proposed will not result in the creation of individual lots with such physical constraints to develop that building on those lots according to pertinent regulations and building standards would be impractical. All proposed land developments and all subdivision lots shall have adequate and permanent legal access to public streets. Each subdivision shall provide for safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, for surface water runoff control, for suitable building sites, and for preservation of natural, historical, or cultural features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community. The design and location of streets, buildings, lots, utilities, drainage, and other improvements in each subdivision shall minimize flooding and soil erosion. And I also want to include that we delegate further development to the planner for approval.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Do I hear a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, we'll go by roll call. Ron Prelowitz, yes.
Carolyn, yes.
Keith Lindelof, yes.
Emily Shumshina, yes.
Okay. We have positive commitment on that. Positive approval on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now, solicitors report.
There is none.
Thank you. Planners report.
No report, Ron.
Okay, thank you. Correspondence and updates.
Nothing to report, Ron.
Public forum. Do we have anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard?
Don't have any takers.
Okay, we have no hands raised.
Nope.
Our next regular meeting is scheduled for July 1st, 2020. We don't know yet if it will be virtual or if it will be at the town hall. That information will be given to us later, at a later date. But it's July 1st, 2020. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Carolyn Light, I make a motion to adjourn.
Carolyn, good job.
Have a second.
Keith.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Ron, in favor, yes.
Carolyn, yes.
Keith, yes.
Emily, yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I make it 8:43, and thank you for everyone's participation. We'll see you in July.